Hi, folks. It's 24 April. Buster is home in a little cute box, so Buster has returned back to us. But what do we have today, Miss Katie?
GMT Game Pacific War, the struggle against Japan, 41 to 45.
And what did you say about it?
This thing is a beast.
How much did it weigh?
9 pounds.
9 pounds. And I looked through it yesterday, and we'll talk some more about it, but it's a honker of a game. But it's one that we had before when I worked at CMH, and when we were selling Rich Davis's games for him, and we said, yeah, I'm never going to play a monster game again. Yeah. Well, that's all been proven wrong, and so, now we have it again. How about that? But now it has, and this gets me excited. Oh, Lord, it gets me excited. Mounted map boards. So you can put that on the table, Miss Katie.
Yay.
And let's show what we took from my mother before she passed. And it is my father's World War II Navy uniform. Miss Katie doesn't fit into it.
I tried.
She tried. I was very surprised. Now, I don't know if it shrunk some over the years. And of course, well,
I'm built a little different.
Miss Katie is built a little different as opposed to my father. But in general, you know the routine. She showed you that, and now she's going to wave and say thanks and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, folks, Miss Katie is now ready. I got the little curled tongue sticking out at me versus one of the cats. It's amazing we don't have a cat on the table. Look at this. But Fuzz is in the doorway wanting to come in. So we may have company. But, new GMT game, and I figured this was a $200 game. Because it's 9 pounds. We checked it out online, and it's only, $90, which is amazing considering how much there is to this because it's 9 pounds. So let's actually act like we're really doing an opening, and you're looking at it for the first time. Well, what's the first thing you come up with? Dice! 2 dice. An orange die, I guess it's for Tennessee fans. That means that you probably aren't ever going to win at the game if it's for Tennessee fans. And a blue and white die, which means it's Penn State. Well, why is that Penn State? How do we know that God is a Penn State fan, Miss Katie?
Because the sky is blue and white.
Because the sky is blue and white, so we know the Lord is a Penn State fan. All right. I told Miss Katie the thing that got me all discombobulated about this game last night was, listen, 2 mounted map boards, and they are gorgeous. And I will just unfold one of them here for you. And of course, as always, we'll look at it in greater detail. What you're going to see is perhaps odd looking to you. See? Here it is. Ta-da! What is odd looking is the way it's done, because you would think it's going to be this way to make things right, but instead they did it a different direction. When you see in my later sections, you'll find that it actually works better and is a different view. There's Miss Frankie, and now we've got Grey Kitty, her brother. Different, must have been different fathers. So, 2 mounted map boards. They're beautiful. And of course, well, you expect a game like this to have several pages of rules. 240 pages of rules. But, wait, we forgot one, so we gotta get the extra one there. 5 rule booklets, but there are not But here's what it is. There is the core rule manual. Well, you gotta have that to play the game. But then you have, and you gotta like this, the Battle of the Coral Sea extended play example. That'll make it easier. Battle scenario, engagement scenario, and the scenario booklet. So, what are we talking about here? We're talking about a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff here. Very detailed. Like campaign scenario number 2, Philippines, December 1941. That will probably be one of the ones I'll set up and play because it sucks to be the American player. Those tend to be often the ones I always like to see how a game system works. There are numerous player aid cards and such in this box. We're still digging. In fact, we are still digging. There, we're done. There is the, of course, replacement record sheet. Well, I don't know about you guys, but the lesson I learned with Jet Downey Sports Games and some other GMT games, I make a PDF of all these things because cat throws up on it, falls on the floor, puppy chews it up through the middle of the thing. I've lost all my sheets. Instead, if I have it as a PDF, all I have to do is go into my Pacific War folder and print out a new one. Just one of those lessons you learned. Now, you have here operation display. Each side gets one. You have strategic initiative, you have day tracks, you have units. All in all, easy to track with. Oh, we pulled out a sheet of. Oh, I should also note to you, there are, in case you're the sort who wants to use paper maps. Well, there's paper maps. Okay? I'm not going to use the paper maps because, as Miss Katie will tell you, if you give me a mounted map board, I am happy all day. And there comes Bandit. Hi, Bandit. And the big fold out, the Japanese screen, you have the merchant shipping attrition table because you know that we whacked the Japanese merchant marine hard. Ground combat table, air and naval one, and this really spiffy thing that looks like a radar scope, the search table. Same thing for the Allies. You have this. You have force display one-sided. You have 4 of those type. Then you have the other type. So you've got, let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 force displays. Then you've got both Japanese and American display sheets. What I in particular noted about this, and it's a learning point I make to my Air Force students, is Allied dry dock capacity. Right there. Key thing that we don't always realize, because with the large American fleet train, we needed to have great anchorages. Well, there were several in the Pacific, but not always to do this kind of logistical support. So this is really interesting. And then there are, there's a couple sheets of counters. 16 counter sheets. But Miss Katie would not be totally put off by these because what don't they have?
Stickers.
Stickers. Because Miss Katie hates stickers.
Stickers are stinky.
They are stinky. Stickers are, for her, a house full of stink bugs.
Yes.
Yes. That's how much she dislikes. what I noted, and I will put on my glasses to look here. You have, by fighter group, and you can tell what kind of planes they generally are, although it might have been a little nice if they'd have put and identified which plane they are. Like I can tell, like here, that's a PBY. My daddy flew in PBYs some. My daddy seemed to have done a bit of everything. I think he did a lot of chasing women in Hawaii too, but that's a different matter. But you've got lots of that. And of course, markers. You have the British Navy, the French Navy, the Tirpitz, for whatever reason. My favorite, the Dutch fleets from the ABDA segments, and you got Japanese ships. Somebody's probably going to say, well, they could have done something different with the silhouettes, or they could have made them colorful or all. And it's like, I'm just happy to have got to the game first because GMT was kind enough to send me to review. And there comes a point where you just have to say, is that going to matter so much? If the silhouette's good, I'm happy. You might not be happy, but I'm happy. And lots of ground units. I wonder if those are Soviet. They certainly look like Soviet, don't they? But yeah, lots of counters to punch out. So, and I've noticed on YouTube, it looked like somebody did an organization how to put counters in the thing. And of course, now we've got Japanese planes. So there's a lot here. Now let's do as we always do, and I'll go, as I always say to you, no more detail in books. First, there are a trilogy by Peter Harmsen. There is the Storm Clouds Across the Pacific. There is Japan Runs Wild. And there is Asian Armageddon. Probably the best trilogy, quick trilogy of its type. There is Desperate Sunset. I think the best book Osprey has ever done. Shocked at how good it is. In fact, I've sent this to several folks as gifts. Sledge. Remember E.B. Sledge, folks? If you watch the Pacific, he was the Marine who had to get his father to certify that he could go to the Corps because he had the heart murmur. Heart murmur disappeared, Sledge goes to war, and becomes friends with the guy who later plays Freddie Mercury in the Queen movie. Whatever his name was.
I can see him, but I can't recall his name.
But he extracted a lot of gold fillings from Japanese soldiers, dead Japanese soldiers. And then, of course, one of the books I always talk about, and I talk about to my Air Force students, Tower of Skulls, must-have book for any serious gamer, particularly for any serious gamer at the Pacific era. Can't go wrong with this. Frank has also done a good book on Guadalcanal. And I'm waiting for the second volume of this one to finish the war. So, there you have it, folks. You'll see all this in more detail in a bit from me. And as always, we thank you, people. Bye. Good cover, right? I mean, big, bold Pacific War. Can't miss what it is. GMT. Here's my hand. Now, granted, I have small hands, but you can see how thick this is. But the back. Oh, the back is beautiful. And notice, it's a short game. Oh, wait, let's get down to it. Only 3 to 100 hours. Oh, this is going to take me, it'll take me 300 hours to play. But I was shocked to see that they actually got this to the P500 and beyond. Hi folks, it's Smitty. Now we're going to talk about books. Now, this is about GMT as we continue, Pacific War. I'm trying to recall who it was done by the first time. I had a copy of it to sell for my boss while working at the U.S. Army Center of Military History. I thought about buying it at the time and said, I'm never going to play a monster game again. I'm not going to have the time for it between this, being a university professor, this, that. Well, we know how that works, right? Wrong is wrong is wrong. But let's talk about books here, because this one deserves more than the average number of 1, 2, or 3 books. And first, let's go with Tower of Skulls, which is the work you need to have for understanding China. Frank's book is truly a tour de force. It is the best of its kind, and I tell my Air Force students they all need to read it. Whether any of them do or not is a different matter, but it is a compelling book and gives you a different sense of what Chiang Kai-shek faced and the cruel dilemmas thrust upon him by the Japanese. And of course, the Japanese invasion of China has led ultimately to the rise of communist China. So we won't go there right now, will we? Then there is a book Miss Katie got me for Christmas. The U.S. Army in the Pacific War, Fire and Fortitude, McManus. Our buddy Kurt Hudson said, Smitty, you got to have these. Got to get the McManus books. So we got the McManus books. We've yet to start to read them. But on Kurt's recommendation, who has done not only other good fiction books, but nonfiction, we got this. Then there is, for our Marine friends, With the Old Breed. Sledge plays a large part in the Pacific series. I think his book is the best of the Marine ones of World War II. The others overreach, I think, of this type. But Sledge's book is truly a good one. Then I've got a threesome book series here for you. And this is by an author I've come to like, Peter Harmson, who I've read other things of now. It's a 3 series. All 3 of these are highly recommended. Best small trilogy of the Pacific War. War in the Far East, Storm Clouds over the Pacific. Asian Armageddon, 1944-45, which is the 3rd one. And then Japan Runs Wild, which is really, really a good book. And I came across these thanks to Armor Magazine saying, Dr. Smith, would you want to review one of these books? And of course we said yes. And then there is, I think it is maybe Osprey's best book, and it's a sleeper among sleepers, Mike Yo's Desperate Sunset, Japanese Kamikazes Against Allied Ships, and it is very, very good. Deserves a place as well on your thing. And what is so great? Maps. Well, of course it is maps, right? Firefighting. But it also has, throughout, a series of the kind of, and like where ships got hit, but it also goes into great detail on the kind of planes that were used, and of course, close air patrol diagram, another stellar book. So, can't recommend all these books enough for you. They're all easily found on Amazon, and they're also all easily found in good shape as used books. So, what are you waiting for? You're going to order, right? Let me know if any of you do order the books, and let me know how you feel about them. Thanks. Bye. All right, folks, the $1 million view, and my God, there's a lot of stuff in this box. Just look at that. Those are mounted maps, folks. Let's go first to 5 rule manuals. 240 pages. You have the core rule manual. You have the engagement scenario rule manual. You have the battle scenario rule manual. You have the Battle of the Coral Sea extended example of play and scenario booklet. So let's take a look at, say, the battle scenario rule manual. What does it, and it looks like a typical GMT, right? Nothing new there. If it would be, we'd be worried. Engagement. Does it look any different? No. Set up much the same format, near as I can tell. The core rule manual. Again, you notice it all flows. It all so far seems to look much alike in the opening pages. That leaves me a little bit easier because then I'm not guessing from book to book how much things change. But then you gotta like this one. Oh, Victory Games. How to Learn Pacific War. And I would probably agree with this, knowing things. I strongly suggest that if you're new to Pacific War or have not played in decades, you should start with the engagement scenarios. Sounds like Atlantic Chase to me, doesn't it? But 240 pages, folks. Then you've got your merchant shipping attrition table for the Japanese. Number of Allied submarines. And then you got the same thing for Allied screen. But let's see what else the screen does. Oh. Your ground combat result table and your air naval combat result table. Critical hits. Troop differential, which you saw here with the recent Salerno game. And search chart. You know, that's a pretty spiffy looking chart. Nicely broken out in terms of colors and looks like a radar screen. So someone gave some thought to that. And all total, this folds out to what, 5 panels? 4 panels. So let's see if the Japanese one looks exactly the same. I would guess that it does. And it seems to look much the same. Okay. Now, counter sheets. How many counter sheets? We are looking at 16 counter sheets. It seems to be easy to read the US ones. Bold. Let's look at the back. Okay. Can tell they're the flip side, I guess, because of the lighter color. All right. That they've taken a loss. Now we get into, are these British? What happens when you do things with your glasses off. But more, 16 ground units. More air, more ground, base, engineers, and then ships. And of course, our favorite, the USS Pennsylvania, because, well, we grew up in Pennsylvania. And probably, there will be others in there. And then, of course, as you always expect, the Japanese to be in some form of red, right? And Fuso and Yamashiro, and Ease, which we all built in high school as models. So 16 things of counters. Now let's move over to Operation Display. Here you've got your Strategic Initiative track, your Naval Movement track, a day track for scenarios, and then various lighting conditions. So this is going to take some room, folks. This is probably why this will need to go upstairs on a table where I don't have to ever worry about cats getting in on it. I always like when I get pads. And I suspect, like you all, what I do is I go ahead and I scan one of these for in case anything happens to it. So then I always have the ability to call it up again. All right. This is only one-sided. you've got here your Allied display sheet. Month track, so you get to see operational PT boats in 1941, ASW sweeps, search modifiers, improved flaks, air step training bonus. And of course, one of the things I talk to my Air Force and Navy students about is the amount of dry docks we had in the Pacific. This is a great feature to see with this game. And again, a lot of phases, which means, again, because you're going to need to have these kind of charts out, and I'll show you the phases. Because you're going to need to have these kind of charts out and displayed all the time, you're going to need room. That's not a negative. That's just the reality of what we deal with. And I'm looking to see the Japanese one looks much the same. Force displays depend upon how you break out your forces. Task force screen cores. Same for Allied task forces. And then we will unfold the maps and show those to you, but that will require taking a break here. One moment. How many of you instinctively look at a map and just go, I don't like it? Well, I don't like it. I instinctively looked at this map and said, wow, I like what they did here. Instead of going east to west, or west to east, they did it in a north-south manner. And at first it seemed really mentally goofy, but when I look at it, go, wow, I really like this. Instead of having to look at things from the side, I'm looking at everything kind of straight on in a different sense. This is really, really very interesting. What is also interesting is, as I tell my Air Force students who are always talking about carrier task force, I said, listen, if you want to understand air warfare, you have to understand bases too. And World War II and islands and bases, they're unsinkable aircraft carriers, but they can also be taken out. So you need to understand that. And of course, the Solomons are in the news right now because, well, we won't get into the political aspects, but I have a feeling my father's friends from World War II would be upset. Is this just neat? Let's get over to China and look in depth in China. Allow me to walk around here, folks. Is this not really something? I mean, I'm very taken by it. It's hard, I think it's hard not to be taken by it. I think I don't know if this was how the original map was done. My guess it probably was, but I don't know that for certain. All I know is I am very impressed right out of the box with the map. And of course, terrain key, weather zone conditions, and you see the box here showing you what is the Southern Pacific, if you're using the optional rules, Asian mainland and Southeast Asia. So, and look at all these all possible air bases up through here. GMT, you done good with this map. That's all I can say. This is just a beautiful map.